found it. All right, great. I think we're good to go. Fabulous. So let's get started. So my name is Peggy Kachivas. I am a campus director with the National Live Remote team here at Tech Elevator. It is my great pleasure and honor to welcome you all and our three fantastic alumni that have taken time out of their day to be here to kind of just give us a little snippet, if you will, of their experience with Tech Elevator, why they went into this field, and what they're doing today, kind of giving us a little bit of a rundown of what their job looks like and, the environment that they're a part of, at this moment. So we're going to kind of break this down in a few parts. First and foremost, I do want to give a little bit of a housekeeping rundown, just kind of give you an idea of what's going to go on in terms of the agenda, as well as an overview, quick overview of Tech Elevator. And then I want to introduce our lovely alumni here. They're going to take a second to speak a little bit about themselves and what they're doing today. So if you feel comfortable, make sure your video is on. We'd love to see our beautiful faces in the audience. And it kind of helps us read the room a little bit. If you're confused, if you have a question, if you're laughing because our jokes are hilarious, that would be nice to know. And additionally, your mic is muted at the start of this session. But if you have questions, we love questions. Go ahead and raise your hand at any point in time. There's a virtual button for that, or you can throw it in the chat. And we'll have access to that question. We can stop at any given point in time to address the question. And there's no such thing as a silly question. Trust us when we say that we've likely asked it before. And that's it. So let's go ahead and get started. A little bit about Tech Elevator first and foremost. We elevate people, companies, and communities. That's our motto. That's what we do every single day. The decisions we make are centered around that. And we believe that we give bright minds the confidence and courage to change their lives and their careers. And every student has a different path here. Every company has a different path when it comes to selecting talent. Every community looks different, and we love the diversity and uniqueness of that. And through our full-time and part-time coding boot camps, we offer 2 tracks. We teach our students from those diverse backgrounds to become software developers. And that's exactly what these 3 individuals went through. And they're going to talk about their unique experiences here in a second. Additionally, we build the necessary career readiness skills and career connections through our nationally recognized pathway program. So again, it's not just important to understand what it's like to code, to be a sound programmer. And we actually have 2 instructors on this call. We have Tom Medvitz and Tom Bierbauer, who have jumped in here for a second. Hello. But it's also important to talk about the career side of things and building those career readiness skills to make sure that we have the well-rounded background to give us an edge in this really competitive job market and to excel in our given paths wherever we end up working. Just to give you an idea of where we are and where our alumni have come from, and these 3 awesome individuals, we are a national coding boot camp. We have our national live remote program, which is the program that I run. Essentially what that means is if a student excels in an online learning capacity, a remote learning capacity, we have that option for them. But we also have 2 fantastic brick and mortar campuses available as well in Cleveland and Columbus, Ohio. So if you live near one of those specific locations, may I recommend you absolutely look into that, because that's an awesome experience in person. But again, if you don't have a campus near you or you excel really well in an online environment, National Live Remote might be for you. A few stats here. We've graduated over 3,500 alumni in our tenure here. We've been in operation since 2015 through our humble beginnings in Cleveland, Ohio, which is actually where I'm out of. We've partnered with over 900 companies in the duration of our time here, and that ebbs and flows throughout the year. And over 1.6 million average dollars in increase in lifetime earnings for our students. So that's amazing to see that impact being made. We'll go through this a little quickly because we do want to get to our alumni and make sure we ask these awesome questions we have set up for them and whatever else is coming in through our audience. So a few things here in terms of what we offer, and our students, or excuse me, our alumni can speak to this as well through their given track. All three of these individuals went through the full-time program. So the full-time program is a 14-week full-time capacity. So that is anywhere from 40 to 60 hours in a given week, whereas our part-time program is 30 weeks long. So you're looking at about 15 to 20 hours of workload in a given week. Regardless of the track, you are graduating with over 450 hours in development time. We teach Java as the core language in both of these tracks. You graduate as a full stack code ready developer, and you also gain those career ready, those prep skills and connections we talked about through the pathway program. This is our tech curriculum here. Just very briefly, our students can also attest to this too. We teach full stack development versus other programs that might only teach front or back end. Again, we teach Java because we find that it's one of the most in-demand core languages throughout the country. We see a lot of open jobs that cater to that language. It's a good technical foundation to also gain in. But, you know, the three of them here will attest, they might not be working in Java. They might be working with completely different languages and frameworks, but this is probably a really good foundation that they can speak to that helped propel them to learn other languages as well. But the three important aspects of full stack programming, and this is where we talk about the functionality, the back end, the front end, and how they work together, and a bunch of other things in our curriculum like projects and pair programming and so on and so forth to help you build that well-rounded background. The pathway program is the second part of it. Again, that other side of being well-rounded. And the pathway program is essentially saying, again, it's not just important to know how to code, but we also want to make sure that you are a sound professional, you interview well, you are a good contributor to your team environments. And so we offer 30 sessions that are diverse, like LinkedIn, resume building, interview workshops. We do one-on-one career coaching. Again, the hiring partners that we've worked with also come in and talk a little bit about who they are, and they mentor our students. And we've made over 3,500 company introductions in our time here. And now our alumni here, and that's the main focus of this session, is to talk a little bit about where they are. And you'll see the biggest concentration is in the Midwest, but we're starting to kind of spread outward. So we have a lot of students in the Northeast, Philadelphia being a main hub for us as well in terms of where our students are located, alumni down in Florida, Texas, and westward as we continue to grow and expand. Again, over 3,500 graduates, 33 states and counting, and then over a 10% increase in salary year over year through that alumni survey that we administer every year to our alumni to get a better idea of where they are today. And the last slide to just talk about quickly, and our students can also talk about this as well, is the amount of help that we offer post-graduation to make sure that these students, these alumni, excel post-graduation to make sure that they land the job that they are looking for in the path that they are seeking. Some students go into software development roles, like pure software development roles. We have product owners, business analysts, QA analysts, and so on and so forth. And so we offer that career support and technical success in terms of continued bonus lectures and one-on-ones with our staff here to make sure that you are getting the support you need when you graduate. So without further ado, now that we have a nice, well-rounded idea of what Tech Elevator is, I would love to welcome the three amazing alumni we have with us today. We have Michael Krut, Rebecca Palmore, and Thomas Troughton, who are going to talk a little bit about who they are. So I would like to first, Michael, I'll put you here on the spot. The virtual microphone gets passed over to you. Tell us a little bit about who you are, where you're located out of, what you were doing before Tech Elevator, and what you're doing today.
Sure. Nice to meet you all. Yeah, I'm Michael. I am from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Before Tech Elevator, I went to school for music and acting. Ended up moving to New York right before the pandemic when everything shut down, and kind of, was kind of rethinking what I really wanted to do with my career. So was, kind of stuck in the service industry for a bit and was testing out different things. I think I even took the LSAT at one point. Was that the law exam? I forget. I think that's
It's a
it.
good question.
Yeah, it was the law exam. And then I got into sort of just like teaching myself some basics in coding. And my brother had actually gone through the Pittsburgh campus of Tech Elevator. He had very good success with them and was able to get a job quite quickly. And so that's what led me to Tech Elevator. And now, about 6 months after I graduated, I got my job at Softrams, where I'm at now. And I do full stack development there. Not Java, but still, I think most of my interview questions were in Java, weirdly enough. But yeah, and I've been there a little bit over a year now, and I really enjoy the company and definitely enjoy my new career as a software developer, and definitely owe Tech Elevator a lot for that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I had no idea your brother went through the Pittsburgh campus.
Yeah,
Wonder if Tom Medvitz might know him.
you might know Stefan. Yeah,
What did you say? I'm sorry.
Stefan Krut was his name, if you know.
Okay. Tom, does it sound familiar too? I'd be curious. Yeah.
Unforgettable.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's a
Unforgettable.
kind of.
I love that. And we see that often. We see a lot of siblings and mutual friends and a lot of, connections going through referrals that come through the program because someone had a really good experience and they want other folks to have that impact on their lives too if they're looking for that career change. So welcome and thank you for being here. Next, we're going to hear from Rebecca. So welcome, Rebecca.
Thanks. It's so nice to be back. And like looking through all those slides of everything that we go through, I can't believe that I went through all of that. I mean, I loved it. I loved every second of it. So it's nice to be back. Let's see. I had a career. I'm a career changer. I had a career in newspapers and local media for 19, 20 years before Tech Elevator. So I had a fully established career. And I actually did do a different boot camp in 2017. It was a for working professionals kind of thing. It was 6 months. It was like during weeknights and weekends. It was also full stack. And I really liked it, but I didn't feel like I was maybe super prepared to work in the industry afterwards. And I had a job, so it wasn't like an immediate concern. In 2020, I decided just to go all in on Tech Elevator because it was sort of my pandemic now or never moment. I found out about the National Live Remote Program. I was already working from home like everybody else, so I felt like it was totally reasonable to shift to an online learning program and just like take that bet on myself and try and find an industry that was growing rather than one that was just constantly shrinking. And I was also just very interested in the content. I didn't have like a specific anything in mind for what I wanted to do professionally, but I was very drawn to being a full stack developer and learning as much as I could. I still have that mindset today. And actually I've now graduated from the technology development program along with 4 other alumni from my cohorts. We're all together in this program. So I've graduated from the program now. I'm a associate software engineer, hoping to drop that associate label soon. I've been with UnitedHealth Group and Optum now for about 2.5 years.
Right. Yeah. And I forgot actually your cohort, we worked, with United Health Group. They had a big class they were hiring. And so you were part of that. And it's so great to see you graduate from them. So congratulations.
Thank you.
And knowing your work ethic, you're going to drop that associate label pretty soon. So that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, welcome. And next, but certainly not least, Tom.
Hi, Peggy. Thanks for having me. I'm really glad to be here, be able to come here and talk a little bit. Can you guys hear me okay, by the way? All right, perfect. I'm from the Cincinnati area, born and raised here. My background before Tech Elevator, I went to school at Xavier University back in 2017. I was one of those bachelor's degree earners who kind of realized a little bit too late that they did not like the field they had been studying for the last 4 years, which was PR. And so I developed what I would call a patchwork resume after graduating. I was in a lot of different industries. I tried working in retail, I worked in construction, I worked in banking, I worked in logistics. And, I had a lot of great experiences, met a lot of great people, learned a lot of things, but didn't really find my niche or what I felt was my true path in my career. Had a lot of friends, though, who had gone through Tech Elevator prior, and they recommended I give it a shot. So beginning of this year, I tried some coding, just messing around with Python in a sandbox, realized it was a lot of fun. And now because of Tech Elevator, I'm here working at London Computer Systems as a software developer.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Tom. Welcome. And Cincinnati is a very tight community. So that's great to hear that referral came this way and you had a great experience here. And actually kind of leading into that, the first question I wanted to ask you really has to do with, today we have so many options when it comes to continued education in this field, boot camps and universities and so on and so forth. What kind of research did you do kind of leading into your decision to attend Tech Elevator? Ultimately, how did you land at Tech Elevator? What was that process to get here? So I'm going to start actually with Michael now, kind of going back to the beginning. Tell us a little bit about your process getting to Tech Elevator.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I had the referral from my brother, and seeing sort of, how his journey was with it and how well that they worked with their hiring partners to help him get hired. So that was like probably the first thing that drew me to it, but I definitely was researching other ones as well. So I went to some info sessions. I saw that a lot of other boot camps maybe focused on like MERN stack, and I kind of wanted to do Java because of the wide range of jobs that it employ for those who like know Java, and also just like in general, it's just really good fundamental object-oriented programming. And yeah, I think also just like when I went to the info sessions, I was very like impressed hearing about the career portion of it as well and how they help you those 180 days after graduating. And let me tell you, you will need it. So that's kind of the research I went through. Like I said, I think I was heavily influenced just because of my brother had such a great experience. Yeah.
Okay, great. I'm glad to hear that. And then kind of going into, Rebecca, go ahead, like tell us a little bit about your experience because you were in Chicago. So it wasn't as heavily known at the time about Tech Elevator in that community.
Yes. And so I just did a Google search, of course, trying to find boot camps. And I had already been through the one, which was based on the Trilogy program at Northwestern. And, I was just looking for online programs. Again, obviously, since we were all working online at the time, there were two boot camps I was looking at, Tech Elevator being one. And to be totally honest with you, I found Tech Elevator's online resources and information, just basic information about the program to be so much better than anything else I could find. That was really like indicative to me of how well organized Tech Elevator was as an organization. I did like the info session. I was asking questions through email. I was always getting responses if I couldn't find the info on the website. And that to me was just like a really, really good sign. I liked everything that I was finding out on my own. Again, I did the info session. I thought it sounded really good for me. It sounded like the right fit. I was really interested in the Java side of things because I hadn't studied Java before. But it was just night and day between this boot camp and another that was based in New York, and it was for women only, which I was very intrigued by. But honestly, getting information was like pulling teeth. And I was like, if this is how they're presenting to the public, like I'm absolutely going to go with a boot camp that has got like so many details right there for me and already anticipating what kind of questions I'm going to have. That was ultimately like very persuasive for me in in deciding to sign up. So yeah.
Awesome. I love that. Well, great. Well, thank you. And it's good to get that perspective, like I said, from someone who's not from, Ohio or Pennsylvania that may have heard of Tech Elevator. So it's great to hear that thought process of how you got here eventually.
Yeah, I had never heard of Tech Elevator. I had no idea what it was.
Absolutely.
So, Google.
Okay. Yeah, Google. There you go. And then finally, Tom, of course, being in Cincinnati, different story. Tell us a little bit about, again, how you eventually ended up with Tech Elevator and any other research aspects.
So Tech Elevator was actually the first boot camp I ever really heard about when I was kind of looking at new aspects for my career. Like I said, I had friends who had gone through it before and had great things to say about it. I'll admit, though, I was kind of leaning away initially from Tech Elevator because the in-person, 14-week, full-time just seemed like a really big commitment. I wasn't really big on the idea of quitting my job to do that. But I was looking at other boot camps before I decided on Tech Elevator, and what I was noticing was, as I did more research on these other boot camps I was looking at, I was finding a lot of, people had good things to say about them, but there were also a lot of alumni who were, kind of saying that they felt like they, wasted their time and weren't satisfied with them. And what made me go, all right, Tech Elevator is a place to go, is that a lot of these students were turning around and saying, go to Tech Elevator. And so that, on top of the fact, my friends had been there, I knew that it was the place for me.
I love that. Awesome. Well, thank you all three for sharing that perspective and giving us a little bit about, the thought process and, again, the research process of getting here, because there's a lot of options out there. And I think when you know someone, or at least if you can kind of find a reliable source on Google, it makes things a little easier. So the next question I want to ask you, we're going to dive into your experience at Tech Elevator specifically. So tell us a little bit about your experience. And I know that's kind of like a loaded question, like there's a lot going on. Tell me a little bit about the general experience you had and what was the most valuable part, you think, of that experience that you gained from here. And we're going to start. Rebecca, let's start with you. We'll put you on the spot.
You could see the wheels spinning as I was trying to think of what was the most valuable, because this is a question that we consider a lot. I know we like to talk about this. My instructor, I don't know how many people were in with our instructor, Margaret Green, who I just adore. I felt like, she had this big group of us in lecture every day, but I felt like she really had a lot of like one-on-one time for all of us. And it just felt like so personal and so accessible. A lot of times when you tell somebody that you're like doing an online learning, they think that you're just like watching videos or you're sitting there silently taking stuff in very passively. Lecture was lecture. The only difference from sitting in a room was that you didn't get to see all of your fellow students. Like I felt like we were able to ask questions, have conversations, stick around after class. Like it felt so much like a classroom to me. And so that for me was very memorable because I just had such a great experience with Margaret Green and like her teaching style, and she was just such an awesome person to look up to as well. However, I will say the Pathway program is fantastic. I did not get a lot of what I felt was professional development support when I went to my previous boot camp. And that was really unfortunate because they really talked it up. And I'm not trying to throw anyone under the bus, but it just wasn't there, especially in comparison to Tech Elevator, where the Pathway program is just above and beyond. I felt so supported and so like prepped. And there were so many resources provided. So those are two things. I know we said one, but like I have to hold both of those up just as being like exceptional.
No, absolutely. And I mean, yeah, shout out to Margaret Green, who's a phenomenal instructor and individual here at Tech Elevator, who I think we can all agree just genuinely cares about the students. And I'm glad you got to experience having her as an instructor. So who, by the way, has now shifted roles here at Tech Elevator, and she does the alumni success support here. Yeah. And kind of leads more of that continued technical education post-graduation. So she's really great. All right, I'm gonna do now Tom. Let's go, Tom. Tom, tell us about your experience, generally speaking, and the most valuable part you thought.
Oh yeah, I'm kind of with Rebecca. It's really hard to nail down one thing that's, I would say the most valuable. Like my instructor, Mike Levy at the Cincinnati campus, was also amazing, and he really had, he was just first off so knowledgeable, and he'd been in the field for so long. He was just an absolute wealth of information. Anything technical or professional, and he was open about it. If you had a question, whether if it was about the material we're covering or about his experience as a software developer in the field, he would tell you. And likewise, the Pathway program was fantastic. I feel like I gained so much out of that, from the employer showcases, which is how I first came across my employer, LCS, to the matchmaking events that we did later on, which is how I landed here at LCS. And just I have to give a shout out to Billy Gura and Clarabelle Quintana, who helped run those events, because they were just with me every step of the way. And, because I was really nervous. I'm like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to, make a good impression. And they kind of talked me up, gave me really good advice. And when I actually got an offer, they helped me with negotiating salary and everything too. So hard to say, but all of that was fantastic.
Yeah. Clarabelle and Billy, I think you described it perfectly. They're just like right there where you need them, kind of just to help you, guide you through that interview process. And I think that hands-on approach is the difference maker. That's great. And then, yeah, shout out to Mike too. He's an awesome instructor. Awesome. And then Michael, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm basically going to echo a lot of what you just heard, but I think I'll also highlight sort of the mini capstones and then the large capstone that you do while you're learning all these like tech fundamentals. I mean, I felt like that was probably the final capstone is when I probably learned the most, putting all these brand new things you just learned, being with a group of people who also just learned these things, and somehow making like we made like a version of Twitter, and like it worked. And that was probably the part that I learned the most technically. And then career wise, we had incredibly, I think it was Sarah and Clarabelle were our pathway directors. I think it's just good to know that like that is something you have to put an equal amount of effort into, truly. Like you really get out what you put into that. Like personally, I did not get an offer from matchmaking. It actually took me quite some time. But I did all the things that they told me to do. And like, I just continued doing them, continued trying to connect with people with LinkedIn, emailing people, and just like constantly keeping an eye on job boards. And that's how I found out about the hiring event at the company I'm at now. So even if you don't get something like right out of matchmaking, they stick with you, and like that was incredibly valuable. And I would not have gotten this job without Tech Elevator. So
Awesome. I love to hear that. For some, it takes a little longer. For some, it's right away. There's no right or wrong. It's kind of the luck of the draw sometimes, even if you do everything correct. And, but eventually you do find your home. And that we really try to teach here that it's about persistence. It's making sure you are dedicated and committed to the job search, because it can get really tough. It really can. But you have a good team here and people that really care about your success. So now I want to address the elephant in the room, because a lot of folks are like, well, I don't know anything about coding. I have no idea where to start. Don't you need to know something before heading into this? Like, what do I need to know? And so who I would love, and not everyone needs to answer, but if anyone really wants to hit home, did you have any coding experience prior to this? And how easy or difficult was it for you to pick up the material? Because the curriculum moves pretty fast, wouldn't you agree? Who wants to tackle that question?
I'd love to say something about it if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely, Tom.
Because I had absolutely zero experience prior to Tech Elevator with coding. like when I said that, like when I was exploring things, I played with Python in a sandbox. By play, I literally mean like I figured out how to, get Hello World to, print to the console. That was it. I didn't build anything more, than that. So, and I knew I had seen some HTML, but never really practiced it. And so I won't lie, keep up with coursework is, yeah, it's really challenging. It's a lot. It's a lot they throw at you, and it's a pretty condensed form of time. But and there were definitely some moments where I felt like, oh, I don't know, I can do this. But from first off, from the support I got from my instructor, I saying, no, you can do it. You absolutely can. And also just the way I think, things are taught, from the textbook to how our instructors lectures to the support we can get outside of lectures, whether if our instructors are available after class or if we have to reach out to an academic fellow. you know um, like, believe it or not, you, you know you could you could do it. I'm a living example of that. So like, it was kind of crazy. I remember the first week being like, oof, I might have bit off more than I can chew. And then, by, the end of the first module, I was looking back and being like, wow, like I learned a lot and it come so far.
That's great. That's, we hear those stories just, coming in and having such limited exposure. And then the instructor really just tries to do the best to hold your hand as much as possible. But it is really difficult too. I mean, the curriculum it moves fast for sure. But you're all awesome examples of students that succeeded and capitalized on the resources in front of you, which is wonderful. Michael and Rebecca, do you have anything to add to that?
I would say like another thing that really helped was just getting to know like your fellow cohort mates. Like you guys are going to be up until like, 10, 11 at night, try to figure something out together. And, some people are going to grasp things faster than others. So like learn from each other, and, you're in good company if you're confused. And there's always people to talk to. There's fellows, there's, yeah, your cohort mates. Yeah, as long as you reach out to people, like there's never something that I never got answered. So
Yeah.
for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I could just add that Tech Elevator is not like a end all be all for learning. This industry requires you to learn new technology all the time. And in a professional setting, you are expected to learn things very quickly. So like, I think the pace of learning is very, if it's exciting, and it can be a little bit overwhelming, but I think if you're good with that, you're going to succeed, because that's exactly what happens in the professional world. You have to learn a new technology. What you learn in Tech Elevator are some foundational concepts that will help you think in a programming way, and it will be easier to learn new technologies, new platforms and things like that once you have some foundational knowledge. But yeah, the learning environment is what the industry is, and nobody knows everything. So like, the faster you can learn and the more comfortable you are knowing that you don't know stuff, I think the better you'll succeed.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. Thank you all three for giving your perspective on that. I think the point is you come in not being an expert, but you also leave not being an expert, because you're constantly learning. And that's really, we teach you the learning process and how to learn, because who is, just to remind myself, is anyone here actually using a lot or even half of the languages you were taught here at Tech Elevator, or are you in a completely different sphere of technical stack?
I have been, not right now, but like I had been using Java, and I'm so thankful, because one of the first, like in the first week of my job, one of the people who was in the same boat as me was like, Rebecca, can you give me an overview of Java? And I was like, oh my God, I don't know if I can give you like a 2-hour like overview of this whole language, but like, let me try it. I was so thankful that I had studied Java. Like, I just felt so much more prepared. It is used quite a bit at my company. I'm not using it right now currently, but yeah, I'm so glad that I learned it. It would have been difficult for me to learn it like on the fly.
Yeah, absolutely. Michael?
I do not use any. I learned Tech Elevator.
Yeah.
Do all JavaScript. I do backend like Nest.js and Express in JavaScript. We use SQLize, so not even like full like SQL commands. Like and then I use React on the front end. But I had enough, like seriously, day one at my job, I just got handed a coding ticket and was just like, this is what you need to accomplish. And I knew enough about just like coding in general to kind of like teach myself other things. So I think we actually learned a lot of like the hards, like Java's like, that's the tough one. I think once you know that, you're kind of in good hands.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I tell the students that are really struggling, in our program, I always say, hey, if you can pass this, right? If you do well enough here, your job is nowhere going to be near as difficult. We're like giving you a lot of stuff, kind of like sponges to soak in and create that really solid foundation. And then when you go out, you kind of learn, you know how to learn at this point. So you're going to continue soaking up all that information. And in this field, you're constantly going to be the student. And this is a good starting point. Great. So I have one more question, and then if anything comes from the crowd, we definitely want to answer that too. But kind of looking back, is there anything you would do different? Is there anything kind of now that you're in the position that you're in, you're like, you know what, maybe I would have changed that, or this is what I want to tell someone now that they might be going through this experience. I'll give you a second, and then if whoever's ready, because again, that's a heavy question too. Tom, what do you think?
Truthfully, I don't know if I would do anything different. If I had
Okay.
time, if I had a time machine, I'd go back all the way to 2017 and change my major from PR to computer science or something like that. That's what I would do. But as
Yeah.
far as everything with Tech Elevator, I I wouldn't change anything.
Awesome.
I do think that just important to know that yeah, when you graduate Tech Elevator, your learning journey does not end. But kind of echoing what Michael and Rebecca said before, by graduating, you've received a solid foundation, understanding how these languages work and how to utilize them and how to pick them up.
That's great. That's awesome. Maybe it was a trick question. Maybe you wouldn't change anything at all, and everything worked out the way it was supposed to. With that in mind, then, do we have any advice to offer to our audience? Anything, like a short little spiel of, here's my general advice as you go into the next steps of this search. Michael, what advice would you give to anyone in the audience today?
Yeah, I struggled a lot mentally through the job search, and I think it's very, very, very important to detach who you are as a developer and like, that skilled person from the applicant that they are seeing. I knew that I did very well in the learning portion, and that and you watch a lot of people maybe get jobs before you, and you compare yourself to them. So I would just like, yeah, very much just be confident who you are. You will get out what you put in eventually. The job search is just a game of luck. I wish it was completely different. It's very hard on applicants. And so that I would just say is, you know, give yourself a break. It'll happen when it happens. And as long as you're doing exactly what they tell you to do, you will get something. It will happen for you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Rebecca, what about you? What general advice would you give to those looking at Tech Elevator and the experience overall?
Just, put your trust in yourself. There's a reason that you're thinking about this career Don't doubt yourself too much. It can feel to know everything, but it's having that curious set and having content itself, and that will keep you going. You're going to succeed. There's no reason why you can't succeed. It's not a mysterious black box. You can learn stuff and then you can do that and take it forward with you. I know it feels impossible sometimes, but it's really not. And like all of us have gone through it, we're working as professionals now in the industry. As crazy as that did sound at one point, but you know, it's totally possible. And yes, you can do it.
Absolutely. And then Tom, any general advice you'd like to offer?
Well, if you go through tech elevator, you know, yeah, trust the process. You know, it's worked for others. It can work for you. Give yourself some grace. Rome's not built in a day, and it wasn't built in a day. And likewise, you're going to struggle too, but you will get there. And just when you get out there into the field and you start looking for jobs, you know, even more important than your technical foundation that you've learned, you know, learn to present your true authentic self, because at the end of the day, the companies are hiring you and they can teach you new things, but you know, they can't teach you to, you know, to be a, you know, a better professional. So yeah, definitely just focusing on being your best self, your most authentic self, and developing those professional skills.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank all three of you so much for your fantastic perspective. It's great to hear from individuals who have gone through this experience, to make sure that we can really address some of these, like I said, elephants in the room. It's like, do I need the coding? What's the experience like? What was the aftermath like? And it's, like I said, great to hear from all three of you. You are thriving in your respective roles and in this industry that is ever changing. So at this time, want to give anyone in the audience just a second to submit any questions that they might have, and make sure that we address those. But again, thank you, Michael, Tom, and Rebecca. Would it be okay to say if anyone wants to reach out via LinkedIn if they have any other questions? Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. We always hit home the importance of LinkedIn here too, because that's an amazing network and waiting to be untapped. So okay, I think we're good. No questions at this time. I wanted to thank all three of you again. And at this time, want to wish everyone a great afternoon and good luck in your search to finding your next step in this educational experience. So thank you all. Have a great day. Bye.
Thank you.